I like having a taxi.
Hello. So, it's been 2 weeks since Matt ended up nuking Crater. Thank the Lord. But what has come out since that has happened? Well, there has been some shifts in map traffic. Some people in Savannah, thanks to the Waystone being moved there. Some people in Green Valley, since the Waystone got moved there. Though it did change up the dynamic there, since they also ended up removing the what's it called again? Home Cave, that's what it's called. Had a little bit of a brain fart there, but oh well. Then Hunter's Thicket, that's still got its home cave, but they moved the Waystone over into Rainbow Hills. So what really changed there is that any groups there that, if anyone dies and they spawn on the other side of the map, it just means if they get Waystone to Rainbow Hills, well, it just takes a little bit longer for them to actually get into the zone that they want to be in. But majority of people that I've seen have actually been just in Grand Plains. It's kind of funny. And for the funniest reason, too. And that reason is because there is a Waystone in Titan's Pass. And I kind of like the thought of all of the Waystones on the map are kind of just sitting on the edges. But then there's just one in the center of the map. And I think the devs, they wanted to try and make a hotspot more central on the map, but because of the community has been so used to going to Grand Plains for so long, everyone who used to just migrate to Crater automatically on, autopilot, they pretty much moved to the Grand Plains River. And with that, it has turned into a situation where whoever has the most semi-aquatics, well, they own the area, as was the same in Crater beforehand. But anyway, I've had to be kind of rescripting my discussion video a little bit. It's a lot more work than I thought it would be. The reason why I have to rescript quite a few things is because of the amount of changes and the change of pace that the devs have actually been doing. Which, in its way, is a positive thing. I'm not even upset that a lot of the things that I worked on, that I already made, have been invalidated, but as I said, that is a good thing. Anyway, before I start rambling about stuff that's not really that important, today's video is pretty much just showcasing or highlighting some of the changes, or not really highlighting them, but showing a particular playable that I have not played in a good while, and you could probably guess from the thumbnail. Let's just say it is quite possibly one of the least engaging things that I have seen in this game. But, with all that out of the way, I hope you all enjoy. So, with the new update, I decided to try out something that got some pretty peculiar changes, which was Anodonttosaurus. And these changes do give me a little bit of a hint that it is gonna be the next TLC. Though, because I've said that now, knowing my luck, it won't be. But, oh well. Let's just say they gave it some more weight, they ended up giving it more health, and then they also made its hunger timer last around as long as an apex predator. So there's no longer starving out an Anno if you are, say, a Rex or a Tyrannotitan. Because, more often than not, it has probably got a higher, well, amount of food and water in its gullet. And on top of that, with the weight change, it no longer has the weakness of being near water where there are any Sarcos with grab, since they can no longer just grab it, drag it into the water, and drown it. Your best bet in that case, if you are a bunch of semi-aquatics and you come across an Anno, is to do something like this. That's right, just good old knockback. And Suko's is good enough to do that, especially if they're on the water's edge, and once they're in, well, it's easy enough, especially if you have a friend with a Sarco, who can just drain all its stamina and its oxygen once it's under. And, well, it's a pretty quick job after that. Anyway, so I've been playing some Anno in pretty much the expectation that I think it may be the next TLC. Just so that when the TLC actually does come out, I don't have to start running around the map questing on the slowest dinosaur in the game. And while I'm at it, I'm also trying to actually find some groups that will possibly try to waste their time in trying to kill an Anno. Like me and my friends have tried to do quite a few times and wasted like half an hour into still not killing the Anno. It's been pretty ridiculous. But I only really got one encounter of a persistent attempt at my Anno's life. It was a little bit funny in some ways, just the hopelessness of it, but I can imagine the frustration on the other end. This thing is ridiculous. So, I've been walking around the map, just questing, pretty much from Green Valley to Savannah Grasslands to Grand Plains, pretty much the air-quote hotspots that you would usually expect of the map. But this encounter actually ended up starting in Savannah Grassland. Now, first off, let me just say, sorry, but for some reason, in replay mode, the grass is green in Savannah Grassland. It's weird, but hey, Path of Titans things. I'm sure it'll end up getting fixed sometime in the future. It's not really that important, it's not really a top priority kind of thing, but on the other hand, tell me, do you think more people would come here if Savannah Grassland was green? Because it actually looks not bad like this. I'm getting a little off topic, but anyway. While travelling through, I make sure to keep my food and water topped up, as there's definitely been an increase in player traffic in this area, mainly due to there being a waystone and a home cave right nearby. And as I'm travelling through, I notice that there is a Tyrannotitan in the distance. But not only that, there's also then an adolescent Tyrannotitan, so I'm guessing they are friends, and one of them is helping the other to grow. I was guessing that it was the adolescent that ended up spotting me, and so I decided to get a quick drink of water and move on. And to my surprise, I could hear the loud footsteps of Big Mama who was on her way. Though it was only when I actually reached the bridge of Hunter's Thicket to Savannah Grassland that I could properly see that, well, they were resolute in what they wanted to do. And so my thought process here is to find a little spot where they would have the least amount of freedom of movement as possible. And as they got closer and closer, just walking in the direction that I went, they never expect the bush Anno. Now, this strategy is sound, it's just that Anno is ridiculous. The idea right now is just to reduce my bleed healing as much as possible, and they're also a feast titan, meaning that every heavy bite that they do to me also gives them a chunk of meat in which they can heal. So in theory, they can just keep hitting heavy bites and healing off the damage, while also reducing my bleed healing for whenever I decide to move. Which is why they've also hit me with a blood-chilling roar. So right now, I have 85% reduced healing when they hit that third stack of feast on me. Though the problem right now is that they're taking too many hits to actually, well, out-heal the damage that I'm doing. And if you want an example of how fast they can actually stack that bleed up while I have all of this bleed heal reduction, well, there's your example. Though in this case, it really is not worth it, unless you at least have a ramp alongside the Tyrannotitan to reduce the bleed healing to over, well, 100%. And here, they ended up sacrificing so much health just for that on a hunkered Anno. It's, well, as I said, just not worth it. And if I see that they try to rest, well, I'm in a bush, they can't really see that I am also resting. And after a few attempts of trying this, to pretty much no avail, I see that they are pretty much on death scars trying to heal. And I know better than to actually try and chase a Tyrannotitan on the slowest dinosaur in the game. And so when they finally go to rest one more time, I decide to just move along. I was pretty sure that they would have given up at that point. Because, hey, They pretty much are already at death scars after about maybe 3 minutes of trying. But to my surprise, they actually continued to follow. And the bush that I found for this one, while it may have hidden me from Big Mama, it did not hide me from the little baby. And let's just say, we know how that song and dance goes. I can't lie, I'm not sure if the adolescent Pteranodon actually saw me, or if they just happened to walk into the same bush that I was sitting in. But either way, we're in this position now. Big Mama is back at death scars, and we have the baby pretty much trying to keep me in combat so that Big Mama can heal, taking pretty considerable damage each time that they try, to the point where both of them are now just watching me from a distance. The adolescent ends up going up onto a rock to watch me from above, and the adult ends up going over by the shoreline to sleep and heal a bit faster. But here's where the funny happens. The adult ends up hitting me with a blood-chilling roar, and then also going to rest for a second. I decide to threaten to move and chase for a second, in which the baby ends up doing this. They must have forgotten to equip Skydiver. This certainly puts a damper on this whole thing, since, well, they're able to fill up their hunger now, in making this, what could be a war of attrition, a little bit longer, if it comes to that. And so I decide to move along yet again. Safe to say, though, they certainly know what they want. As they're just watching me in the distance, doing these little emotes and then watching me have a little boogie dance, before going and finishing off the body of their recently deceased. Which gives me another chance to actually move away. I already said it, I'm playing like a coward, I don't care, I'm not chasing a Tyrannotitan with the slowest dino in the game. While I do respect their persistence in their attempts, it's... yeah, you get where I'm coming from. I don't deserve to have this level of interaction. I mean, if I was this Tyrannotitan, I'd just ignore Anos. Unless you have just an overwhelming amount of people. Going after Anos is kind of pointless right now. It's nuts. It's actually insane. It is the playable you pick if you are solo and you actually just want to try and fight Megapacks. Not even fight, okay? It's not even fighting Megapacks. It's literally just, you put yourself in front of, I don't know, 10, 20 people, and you see how long you last. And the funniest part is that they just decide whether you actually get to play or not. And when I say play, whether they actually want to engage with you or not. Because 9 times out of 10, people just don't want to deal with you because you're an Anno. And honestly, I wouldn't even blame them. I'm kind of getting semi-off topic right here. But anyway, so I decide to move on. And I want to try and find a better bush to try and hide in, so that maybe they'll just give up on this chase, because I can't lie, I don't want to waste their time. Because they're just not equipped to deal with an Anno. They don't have enough people. Tyrannotitan's strong, but an Anno. So I hide in this bush, and I think that they don't see me, but clearly from this angle right here, they do. My little chunky watermelon body, which they went for immediately. And after a few more attempts of trying to build up a bunch of bleed onto me, they eventually ended up taking too much damage and are now at death scars, needing to rest yet again. Which gave me a very, very good opening to just do the same. But in seeing the difference in our situations at the moment, after dropping the bleed, I decide to actually chase a little bit. Maybe there is a chance that they may try to hit me back with any sort of bleed, in which I am willing to sacrifice a little bit of health, if it means that they'll leave me alone. But seeing as they seem to know better than to, well, try and trade health with me right now, I decide to just get a drink, filling up my thirst, and which I will then just move on to a berry bush. all while they sit and heal while watching me walk away, which did prompt them into chasing immediately. It seems that this Tyrannotitan knows that I like to try to hide if I can. Of course, with not letting me out of their sight, they did end up following me to the berry bush, in which they did try to be cautious, but they did not want to just let me do as I please. And after around 1 or 2 more attempts in trying to maybe just keep me in combat, they ended up taking a little too much damage and ended up at death scars yet again. Though it's not proper full death scars, I'd say they could probably survive around 3 more hits. And with this knowledge, I decide to run forward, if you can call it that, from an Anno, short legs and all, and give another hit. This does make them back off immediately, which gives me a little bit more room just to top up my hunger, putting me more in the advantage of this war of attrition, if it comes to that. Knowing that if they come in for a feast bite, well, there is a chance that they may just die. In which they do attempt it and miss it, and are now surely in a one-shot situation. That if they do actually try to hit me with a heavy bite for feast this time, they will just perish. And with that thought, I decide to try and make some distance to find another spot to hide. Then they can pretty much maybe find another target, because they're just not going to get the Anno. I don't want to say, they need to stop wasting their time. But then again, that is subjective. They might be having fun with this challenge, although it is insurmountable for a single Tyrannotitan right now. I ended up trying a similar spot yet again, just not even really thinking about it, as I heard them get a little bit closer. But not only that, there was also more that I could hear in the distance. There was also the baby Tyrannotitan that also returned. But along with that, there was also a Deinonychus that showed up. So, needless to say, this ain't ending anytime soon, to my knowledge. I'm with the baby titan also still trying to build up any bleed heal reduction that they can on me, along with the parent. It's put them in kind of an awkward spot, that any time that the parent goes in, they take too much damage, in which then the baby ends up having to actually try and take my attention. And any time that I really get up and they actually try to get any meaningful damage in, they end up taking too much damage themselves that, well, I'm still doing pretty fine. I'm willing to actually trade health due to the difference in our circumstances right here. Though there is a Deinonychus that tried something and died very quickly. And I don't like giving them food, but hey, food just handed themselves on a silver platter to them in that case. And so as they start to walk away, the adult is healing in the background, with then the baby now following me towards Snake Gully. Now here is a difficult situation for them. We're in the middle of the canyon of Snake Gully now. A nice, closed, tight spot. A spot in which any attempt of trying to get any real damage done on an Anno will certainly be returned tenfold due to the nature of being a apex-sized predator that only really does any decent damage with its front end. But the adolescent, well, they do something smart. They decide to just watch me. They are pretty much probably telling their friend that, hey, he's just sitting here, take your time. They ain't moving anywhere. They've found a good spot and we can surround them and possibly stop them. In which I knew that there was some shenanigans going on there. So I decided to do a small little bait in which I knew that they would try and follow. And I got a cheeky little hit, in which then, that put them in combat and stopped their healing, and I'm not too bothered about my health. And so I went back and just sat here, waiting for what I would know would be probably a well-healed Big Mama. In which my guess was very correct. Big Mama decided to go around to the other side of the valley so that both of them would have, well, me surrounded. But, as I said, this is a tight spot, which makes getting in pretty easily, but getting back out a bit of a pain. especially when you're dealing with something that can spin faster than a stego using pivot. I'm sorry to say, Tyranno Titans, but Anno's broken. It's just broken. I am so curious as to what they're gonna do for its TLC to actually make it, I don't know, an engaging playable. And yet again, Big Mama is at death scars. Not super heavy death scars, probably the same as earlier, could probably survive 3 hits. But either way, it's enough for me to just charge at her and get a free hit, forcing her to run off, which then gives me some room to actually run off. Though with the adolescent around, I know I'm just going to be followed. So I decided to do a quick turn and kind of just finish it off. They took too much damage earlier in trying to team up with Mama. And so I finished that off, before then heading back to where I think they dropped the trophy. This was originally my kill anyway, I'm the one who killed the Denon, so this is my feather trophy. As I'm making my way back there, I know that the Big Mama is around that corner, and so it's one last little goodbye bop. They run off one more time. I decide to see if they'll stick around that corner for another surprise. They don't, and so I decide to, well, just break line of sight and just get out of each other's hair. They have a meal, I have a trophy, all is well. Though I do just say, sorry Titan, but Anno is just too broken right now. In which, yeah, they didn't know about that, and I just said to them that if they had carried on, since it had been a while, and since my resource of food is around the same as theirs, and there's so many more berry bushes around, I could just starve out that Tyranno Titan. In which they did say thank you for the advice on what that would have happened, and they decided that they wanted to now grow an Anno. 1, I pray for their sanity, in hoping that something will actually try to engage with them. And 2, I'm sorry, community. I may have created another Anno main. And so here we are at the end. So yeah, Anno is a little bit silly right now. You can kind of just pull off things that you shouldn't be able to, or you definitely could not pull off before. It's safe to say that, as I said beforehand, if you see an Anno, just leave it alone. It's kind of nicknamed now as a playable that's too boring to kill. But these kind of changes does make me very curious as to what they actually plan for the TLC. I've seen a couple of teasers or leaks that have popped out of like a couple of abilities, but hey, we just gotta wait and see what they actually do. As I said before, it has been 2 weeks since the Bars TLC, and well, the update in general, so if we're going on the same pace, or sticking to the same pace, I would definitely say that the next TLC is pretty damn close. Alongside all of, these changes and thoughts about TLCs and map changes, all that stuff, we've also then got the game mode test for King of the Hill, which, it's been fun, but then it's also had its own frustrations, mainly due to teammates, as you probably all experienced. But hey, that's just the nature of playing multiplayer, right? But I've rambled on long enough. I gotta get to work on the discussion video, which, yeah, as I said at the beginning, I've had to rescript quite a few things, and I've got to recapture quite a few things to stay on topic and actually make sense and line up with what's in game now. And yeah, without any more rambling, I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you all have a lovely day. Bye.